Hello, everyone. Wonderful to have been with you this past week, subbing for Mark, and I'm really happy to be here as usual on Fridays to help lead us into Shabbat with some inspiration from this week's Parsha. This week's Parsha is Beshalach, and he sent. And today I want to explore the theme of doubt and faith with you. So this parsha brings us to one of the most iconic moments in our Torah, that moment that we are called upon to constantly remember. We sing of it every Shabbat in our Kiddush, the Yetziat Mitzrayim, the Exodus from Egypt. So after the final plague of the firstborn, Beshalach Paro Ta'am, Pharaoh lets the people go. He finally lets them go. They depart from Egypt. The walls of the Sea of Reeds are miraculously parted. They walk through, trusting in God. It says they trusted in Hashem and in Moshe, and they're liberated. They're free. They sing Shirat Hayam, the song of the sea, in praise and affirmation of God's power, and they're birthed anew as a people, as a nation. Unfortunately, there's not much time for them to celebrate before they begin to encounter hardship. The water is bitter, they're hungry, they're thirsty, they're grumbling and complaining. Why did you bring us up from Egypt? They say to Moshe, to kill us and our children and our livestock? They ask, Hayesh Hashem bikir banu im ein, is God among us or not? So even after all of those miracles, even after the splitting of the sea, they doubt that God is present with them. And the parsha ends with a final and momentous hardship in which they are attacked by Amalek. So our Torah teaches that the Amalekites, representing the traditional enemy of the Israelites in our story, surprise them on their journey. At just the moment when they're famished and weary, they're attacked from behind. Amalek actually attacks the stragglers, the slow ones who are at the rear of the group, after all this that they've already been through. But with the help of Joshua, they are able to defeat Amalek, although it isn't easy. I want to just describe to you the scene of this battle. So as the Israelites go into battle, led by Joshua, Moses takes Aaron and Hur up with him to the top of the hill where they can watch the battle. And this is what the Torah says about this scene. Whenever Moses held up his hand, Israel prevailed. But whenever he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. His hands grew heavy. So they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it, while Aaron and Hur, one on each side, supported his hands. Thus, his hands remained steady until the sunset, and Israel was able to defeat Amalek. So the numerical value of Amalek is the same as that of Safek, which means doubt. And in our Hasidic tradition, Amalek is known to represent doubt, kind of the opposite of faith in divine providence and divine guidance. And perhaps we can relate to this experience in our own lives. Perhaps we've experienced miracles. We've experienced the reality that prayers are indeed so often answered, or that things really do tend to work out. And yet the doubt is still there. The doubt is still alive in us. In this story, we find the presence of miracles and extraordinary faith. They plunge into the sea of reeds, right? Some commentators teach that they actually had to get in even up to their nose before the water parted. So it takes tremendous faith to make that kind of leap. And yet almost immediately we find as well this presence of powerful doubt, the kind of doubt that could almost be overwhelming, that can rob us of the faith and the trust that is required for our liberation. And I think that we can take some guidance, some inspiration from this powerful image of Moses and the Israelites as they battle Amalek, as to how we can meet the presence of difficulty and doubt in our practice and in our own lives. Firstly, acknowledging that it's difficult, right? That perseverance is required. Moshe has to hold up his hands and his hands grow weary. So it really takes perseverance and commitment to be present for that, to stand in the face of that battle. And yet we have to also understand that we can't do it alone. We're not meant to do it alone. Moses can only keep his arms up with the support of his loved ones on either side of him, as well as the earth beneath him, right? They take a stone and he sits on that stone. So it's a powerful image, receiving that support from beneath, from below, and the two hands that are held up on either side. And also this message of the importance of protecting what is vulnerable. What does it mean that they were vulnerable to doubt, that they were vulnerable to Amalek because they were attacked from behind? It was the stragglers. So the importance of including and welcoming all of ourselves, even the stragglers, even the parts we would potentially rather leave behind, or the parts within ourselves or others or our world that feel most marginalized, most vulnerable, and perhaps need some extra protection, some extra guidance, or to move a little slower. Can we protect those parts as well? And how might that relate to our vulnerability to this kind of doubt? So every part of us matters. Every part of us must be included on this journey. And so this is where we'll begin our practice today. We'll begin with this invitation to welcome in all parts of ourselves, even the parts that perhaps in this moment feel vulnerable to doubt, or feel afraid or small. So I invite you to settle into your posture for mindfulness practice, a posture that will be supportive of presence, of relaxation and ease, and also alertness, wakefulness. You can gently close the eyes or just focus the gaze softly on the ground. Perhaps noticing, is there anywhere in the body where you're holding any tension or constriction? You can invite yourself to soften, to open more fully to this present moment, just as it is. And meeting whatever is here, whatever is present in the body, in the heart, in the mind, with that sense of welcoming, of inclusivity. There is a place within us that feels frightened or small, a straggler. Can we welcome and include that part in as well? Just welcoming all parts of ourselves, all parts of our experience. To be just as it is, just as they are. Every part of this experience is worthy of our care. Of our attention, our presence. Even the parts that may be afraid or holding doubt. So just settling into this sense of commitment, this perseverance, the firmness that is required in this practice to be with the truth of what is arising moment by moment. Finding within ourselves that commitment to be present to our experience. Not leave anything behind. And then inviting ourselves to feel into the truth that we are not alone. In any given moment, we can feel the support of the earth beneath us. Just taking a moment to notice that sense of gravity hugging us to the earth, the stable ground beneath us. Ever present, always here, nourishing us and supporting us. Letting in the truth that we are never separate from her. This earth that we are. And then perhaps inviting ourselves to invoke the presence of loved ones, of those who support us on either side. Perhaps ancestors, teachers, mentors, family members, or friends. Present in our lives now or perhaps in the past. What would it feel like If those beings were really here on either side of us in this moment, how would we feel? How does it transform our experience of this moment to really rest into the truth that we are never alone? That we are loved. And can we invite in some trust? Can we soften into the possibility of this divine guidance that is available to us? On this journey of healing, of awakening, of liberation. Can we trust that indeed we have what we need to meet each moment as it emerges with love and with wisdom, simply through the willingness to be present to our lives, moment by moment. Ozi vezimrat ya vayehi lishua. Ozi vezimrat ya vayehi lishua. The divine is my strength and my song, and will be my salvation. Some commentators teach that the Israelites began singing this song, Shirat Hayam, even before they'd made it through the Sea of Reeds. And this song is part of what helped them find the faith necessary to make it through that journey. Thank you for your presence and your practice today, and may our practice this Shabbat support us each in finding that courage and faith within ourselves that we need to protect what is most vulnerable in ourselves and in others, and to connect to the goodness and the support of the earth, of one another, and of the divine to carry us through, no matter where we are on that journey. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Rebecca. What a moving and beautiful teaching. Folks are welcome to turn now. We'll have an opportunity to pose questions and be in further conversation with Rebecca. But first, let's turn to Kaddish Yatom, to Mourner's Kaddish. If you're in a period of mourning, if you're marking a yahrzeit, the anniversary of a death, or if it's your practice to say Kaddish at this time, you're invited to unmute, to rise in body or in spirit, and the community will join in responding in loving support. You can put the names of those you're remembering today in the chat, and Kat will put the words of Kaddish up on the screen for everyone. Yit gadal
Yikadal, Bikadash, Shemei Rabba, Yama, Jama, Yurite, Yamishmakute, Bakayakai, Yamahon, Bukaya, Baka Yisrael, Agala, Isma Karib, Yo Amen. Shalom, Bene, Shmei Rabba, Mevorach, Leolam, Olamem, Olam, Barak, Bishtava, Ha'am, Lomar, Yitnses, Yikada, Yikol, Yahalal, Shemei Kadisha, B'Kabru, Anata, Bechata, B'Shabata, B'Shkata, B'Nekamata, Yama, Yamru Amen, Yehi, Shlama Rabba, Shemayim, B'Kayim, Aleinu, Yamko Yisrael, Yamru Amen, Aseh Shalom, B'Hava, Aseh Shalom, Aleinu, Kol Yisrael, V'Yamko Yishvei Tevel, V'Yamru Amen.
Amen. May the memories be a blessing, everyone. If you are leaving at this moment, we wish you a beautiful and sweet Shabbat, a Shabbat filled with faith and trust. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. And if you're staying, this is a beautiful opportunity to be in conversation with Rebecca. If you have a question or a reflection, please put it in the chat. If you have a question, please put in bold the word question so I can see it more easily and be able to draw it out. As people are thinking about questions, maybe I'll begin, first of all, just with a reflection, Rebecca, how moved I was by your invitation to have us gather in loving support around us. Our ancestors, to draw in people we love. And I'm struck by the image of Moses with his hands raised as the sign for the Israelites, as support and encouragement. And you guided us in such a way that it felt so immediate and accessible that we can tap into that, both through people and through relationship to the earth. So first of all, I just want to thank you for that. That's such a beautiful practice that I want to take with me everywhere. I want to jump back now for a moment, sort of with those people all around us, to reflect a little, to hear a little bit more about doubt. That, as you pointed out, the Israelites just had the most incredible experience of liberation, of passage through a split sea, and its doubt comes in so quickly. And I wonder if you could share some reflections on what's your understanding of what goes on in our minds, in us, when we have so much evidence for trust, for faith, for grounding, and doubt just keeps coming in and derailing us.
Thanks for that question. And I'll share a few thoughts. One is, I know for me, when I experience doubt in my own life, and then I think about how even the Israelites who literally just walked through a split sea experienced doubt immediately after, and even Moses, who just has witnesses and is even kind of the channel for the most profound miracles again and again and again. He's like the greatest prophet of God. Even Moses falls short, hits the rock later on, right? He's like doubting God. I know for myself, I just want to say first that I find it really comforting, right? That we can take from our story that there's just something so human about our inclination towards doubt. And even the greatest prophet of all time and the people that witnessed this extraordinary miracles again and again experience doubt. And so, like anything else that arises in our experience and our practice, it's something to just understand that it's something that we share as a humanity. And it's so understandable and natural, and really something to welcome in to our awareness. It's like something to work with. I was on a meditation retreat once, actually with you, at Romu Yeshiva a few years ago. And I remember, and this was after I'd already been meditating, pretty deeply committed to my practice for a decade. And I was experiencing profound doubt in the whole path and the whole practice. It's like, why am I here? What am I doing? What if this doesn't work for me anymore? What if actually, it's like all these years I put into dedicating myself to this, what if it's actually not possible? The kind of healing, the kind of transformation that I'm really aspiring towards. And I remember going into a one-on-one meeting with Rabbi Daniel Silverstein, who was on the faculty of that retreat, and just sharing with him my doubt. And for one, it was just so helpful to share that. And I remember he left me a little note later that was a quote it was from a Zen master, maybe Suzuki, that just said, "With great doubt comes great enlightenment." And of course, that period of doubt did shift and change. And I think that there's something about doubt on the spiritual path in particular that really is even potentially an important part of it. And it's just important that we can stay committed, can kind of see it for what it is and stay with it and persevere, just like Moshe, right? I think that was one of the most powerful images as part of that, the greater image, just that he had to stand there and hold his arms up, and it was hard, and he couldn't do it alone, and he had to do it with support. And just the final thing I want to say is I wonder if part of why the Israelites immediately experienced such doubt, even after all these miracles, is that they had been worked so hard and enslaved for so long that it was like they were just in the habit of heart, the habit of mind of hardship. and things going wrong. And just to acknowledge that when we've been through a lot of hardship or trauma or suffering, even if we can experience the reality of kindness and love and support, it can still be hard and take time for those new experiences to really be wired in. And I know that's true in my experience, that sometimes there's fear and there's anxiety and doubt that comes up, even though I've experienced so much support and love. And when I really go into that and explore, I find, oh, it's because I had this really difficult experience in my childhood or experienced this hardship for a long time. And it's just going to take time for that habit of mind and heart to transform. And so how can I be with that and support that process with love? So
beautiful. Thank you. Jonathan's raising a question that kind of touches into a bit of the other side. So doubt that arises not in the face of so much goodness, but doubt that arises in the face of terrible pain or horrible injustices in the world. And so what do we do with doubt in that place? Or maybe there's a way that you want to help us redefine what it is that we're finding or looking for in trust, in faith.
mm-hmm. Yeah, this question has come up for me in relationship to the Parsha over the last few weeks, also just in the exploration of what did it mean that Pharaoh's heart was so heavy and hard? Why do our hearts become heavy and hard? Is there actually something valuable there or some divine design to that? And so, it's so important not to undermine or belittle the reality of hardship in our lives as human beings. And we might not be ready in that moment to find the faith, to move forward, to orient towards growth. Sometimes we just have to be in that heavy-hearted place of acknowledging and just being with, as much as we can, the reality of the hardship. And again, what I find just in my own experience is that there does eventually, though, come a moment where it's like, okay, well, now it's time to make a choice. Am I going to orient towards growth and healing and support, or how long am I going to just stay in this? And then what that choice means and what that choice looks like, I think is different in each moment and for each person. And the invitation in this parsha, is to find support. We really can't do it alone, but it can be so healing, no matter what we're going through, to feel the presence of loved ones, of close ones who can help hold those arms up, who can help us persevere until we can find that faith again. And of course, I feel that the earth is such a profound resource in every moment, in every way, and including hardship, because it is such a source of steadiness, literal steadiness and ground. And so in some moments where I experience tremendous doubt or fear or hardship, I'll literally just lay down on the ground. I'll just lay down on the earth and bring my mindful attention to the feeling of gravity just holding me there, and kind of imagine even that I'm just giving it to her. I can just let go of this thing that feels too big for me to hold, and can she take it? And she always does. And perhaps she can even compost it, into a beautiful new tree. It's Tu B'Shvat this weekend. So yeah.
That's so helpful, because the way that you're framing it, it's not faith that there will be some miraculous intervention to change the hardship, to change the pain. But what I hear you offering us are ways of being with, as you so beautifully said, including the doubt, including the difficulty in all of its forms, and finding resource to connect with something bigger.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Sorry, that was Siri. But maybe a deep voice from somewhere else. I didn't get that. Try that again. So maybe when we're in doubt, we need to try it more than once. Siri is a good teacher too. I want to lift up Doreen's question about this image that you shared about beginning to walk into the sea even before the sea splits. And you also brought in that beautiful image of starting to sing even as they were walking through the walls of water, that we have the capacity to do something in the place of fear or constriction. And I wonder if you can say more about that, like where does that come from? Yeah, how do we learn that?
Yeah, such a beautiful moment in the story. And there's a lot of commentaries and a lot of midrash interpretations on this moment, what was really happening there. I can just offer a few. One, I was just reading actually in Rabbi Jonathan Slater's translation of the Kedushat Levi, that the Song of the Sea, Shirat Hayam, basically was like a bridge. That song kind of functioned as a bridge, bridging them from the moment of fear and terror that they weren't actually going to escape to the liberation on the other side. And it came through their affirmation of God's power and already touching into the praise and the gratitude, even before they were fully free. That is almost like helped to bring that freedom through. And I think that that's just something that we can explore in our practice. I know it's been pretty profound in my experience, that if we can open ourselves to the possibility of things really working out, and the possibility of like the blessings that we might be grateful for even in the future, if we can invite ourselves to feel that now and to affirm that and to praise that and to really, like in the body, to feel what that might feel like, how does that potentially open the way for us to then become more receptive and available to actually receiving those blessings simply by changing the way that we feel in the moment? It's just something to explore, I think, in our practice. Sometimes I'll ask myself, especially if there's something I'm worried about, like if I knew that this thing was actually going to be okay, potentially in some way I can't even imagine, how would I feel right now? And then it almost is irrelevant what will actually happen in the future, but I've like given myself the invitation and the permission to release the worry and to feel the blessing in the moment. So that's one response. And then there's a beautiful midrash that or the rabbis taught that there was a man, Nachshon, who was the first one to step into the sea. It hadn't parted yet, and he went in all the way up to his nostrils, and that's when the sea parted. And then there's also an interpretation that he actually accidentally fell into the sea. So whether he willingly walked in, which was so courageous, because that's how badly he wanted his freedom, and he was willing to have that kind of courage and faith, or he just kind of like fell in and then just had to. It takes a tremendous amount of courage. It takes a tremendous amount of courage and willingness to be vulnerable.
So valuable. Thank you. And also lifting up what you shared earlier about a choice, about choosing, how we choose life, how we choose, even when the circumstances are as they are, what's available for us to choose and what supports us in that choosing, in that activation. Rebecca, thank you so much for your beautiful teaching. Kat, thank you so much for your skillful tech support. And thank you everybody for being here in practice, in learning together. Wishing you all a very sweet Shabbat. Feel free to unmute, wish each other Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you so much.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Everyone.
Shalom,
Thank you,
Rebecca.
Rebecca and
Thank you,
Miriam.
Rebecca.